The Rivers State government declared May 3 a public holiday in the state due to the president-elect Bola Tinubu's visit to enable residents give him a rousing welcome. Tinubu praised Governor Wike for the development in the state. The president-elect, who is in the state to inaugurate 2 projects executed by the state government, described Wike as a dependable ally. However, the All Progressives Congress, APC, in Rivers State has dissociated itself from the visit of Nigeria's president-elect Bola Tinubu. In a statement on Tuesday, the spokesperson of the APC in the state, Darlington Nwaju, described the visit as private and on the invitation of Governor Wike. He added that it has nothing to do with the APC in the state. Mr. Nwaju also said that the party is focused on pursuing justice by challenging the outcome of the March 18 elections at the Elections Petitions Tribunal and cannot be distracted by the antics of Governor Wike and his co-travelers. Joining us on this show this morning to discuss the president-elect's visit to Rivers State and if the relationship between Tinubu and Nyesom Wike affects the APC's move to challenge the governorship election results in Rivers State is Tonye, governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State. Mr. Tonye, welcome to the morning show. Good morning.
Good morning, Ruben. Nice to be here today.
Well, quickly, your take on the president-elect's visit to Rivers State and why you were conspicuously absent. You were not just conspicuously absent, your party was absent. Your party in Rivers State is saying, we know nothing about this visit. We would like to have your reaction.
Ruben, thank you very, very much. And I will describe the visit in from 2 sides. The first side of it is the president-elect. As the president-elect of Nigeria, he has every right to go anywhere. And Rivers State government, as a government, invited him, and he has come. He's honored that invitation as president-elect and has come to Rivers State as president-elect. With that, we have no problem at all. Where the issue is that the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, ought to also be the governor of all Rivers people. And one of the things that he should have done, if inviting the president-elect, who is the president-elect of all Nigeria, would have been to call us as APC in Rivers State to inform us that he is inviting the president-elect and would want us to be part of that program. We never got any invitation. I wasn't invited personally. I was not invited in my capacity as a candidate. Neither was our party, APC in Rivers State, invited to any of these things. And I believe that that is where the difference between the president-elect acting in his capacity as the president-elect for all of Nigeria and Governor Nyesom Wike acting in his capacity as governor of just the particular section of Rivers people. That is where our disagreement stands.
All right. I hear you that it was a private event, Mr. Cole. Thank you very much for joining us. And it was the governor of Rivers State who had invited the president-elect. What we recall when the president-elect, the candidate at the time, had visited Rivers State for his campaign activities, you accompanied him to some of these places, to meet traditional rulers and some members of the community. Couldn't you have been a part of his entourage, despite the fact that you didn't get a direct, invitation? That's one. So in terms of the president-elect himself reaching out to the APC in Rivers State, could that have been an option just to demonstrate that he was with you, supporting you, and working with you? No. So those are 2 different instances. When the presidential candidate was coming to Rivers State, that was an APC event. We organized it. He was invited. And under that arrangement, I was there to welcome him. We brought him in. We accompanied him as my presidential candidate at the time.
Today, he is president-elect of not APC, but president-elect of Nigeria. So there is a big difference. The onus now is on the governor of Rivers State, who was making that invitation to determine who and who he wants to come. And he made it very clear that he was not going to invite us. So we were not invited, and I would not crash that party. And I have to give the president-elect his honor. He would not start dragging me into a place where I wasn't invited. I got no invitation on this, and I'm a man of principle. I wouldn't begin to crash a party that I wasn't invited to.
Two questions. Number one would be, what's your relationship like, with the president-elect? Because obvious from the conversation yesterday, they did a deal. And the deal was in support of the president-elect and Wike keeping his own bargain. And that's why the APC won the presidential election for the first time in a while in Rivers State and couldn't reciprocate in the governorship election where you contested in. And a lot of people said you were put in the middle of that deal as a plea bargain. That's number one. So what's your relationship with the president-elect? Number two will be...
No,
number two, let me just ask number two. Number two will be, you had a big skirmish recently, while you just went to lawfully ask for your documents from INEC to be able to prosecute your case. Can you explain to us what really happened around that? And did the governor have any hand in that? Governor Wike, I mean.
Okay, excellent questions. In the first one, I've known the president-elect since I was a child. He's somebody who is very, very close to my family, close to my father, close to me, myself. So we have a very, very good personal relationship. And that relationship has never been soured and would not be soured by any of the politics that we are in today. He's also somebody who I have spoken to extensively about my political journey and has advised me severally on steps to take in politics moving forward. So we have a cordial relationship, a lot of mutual respect, and it's somebody that I rely on and I'm okay with. So we have no problem personally as far as the president-elect and myself are moving forward. On the second question, now this is where the crux of the matter is. There is an impunity level that we saw in Rivers State elections, especially when it comes to the gubernatorial, that we cannot just stand by and keep quiet on. Not only were we prevented from collecting documents that are rightfully ours, those documents up until today, we have been refused access to our documents. We are expected to collect our CTC documents so that we can file for at the electoral tribunal. Rufai, you would not believe that PDP mounted for the first time in Nigeria's history, mounted a blockade of INEC's office to prevent us from accessing those documents. The law, electoral law, gives the REC 14 days for which to provide those documents. After 14 days, he is liable to 12 months imprisonment for contravening that law. Right now, he's standing on that with that threat over him. But moving forward, the electoral tribunal, we went to the electoral tribunal and we got a court order compelling INEC to release the documents. Still today, that order has been ignored. The bailiff has served INEC that order again last week, Wednesday, compelling them that they must release the documents. That's from the electoral tribunal. We still have not received those documents. And what I'm pointing out here is that this level of impunity by INEC cannot be allowed to stand. Nigerians must understand it, and we have to continue to fight for what is right and what is just.
Well, Magnus Abe, who was also a governorship candidate in the March 18 election in Rivers State, says he has withdrawn his petition against the outcome of that election because, as far as he is concerned, he can see that Governor Wike is, has cut a deal with President-elect Bola Tinubu. So Now you have the same president-elect of your own party coming to Port Harcourt and not even giving you a phone call, not asking after you, not minding whether you and your supporters were invited or not. So where does this leave, your petition at the tribunal on that March 18 election? Are you also going to act like Magnus Abe and say, okay, let it go, carry go, since my major principal is not interested?
Okay, Ruby, a point of correction, please. You said something about about my principal, not even calling and all of that. But let's leave that aspect. I didn't say that. But you talked on something very, very serious. The first aspect of it has to do with Magnus Abe withdrawing his tribunal petition. I have not been able to speak to Magnus to hear from him what the reasons for his withdrawal are one-on-one. But he has said why he has withdrawn. And that's a very personal thing, and I'm sure himself and his party members have stood by that. But one of the problems that we have in Nigeria today and Nigerian politics is that we do not find people who are determined to dig to the truth. Rivers State election was a public disgrace. It wasn't hidden. We saw exactly what happened. For goodness sake, I lost my DG. He was killed. His funeral is on Saturday. They're burying him on Saturday. What do I tell the family of Chisom Leonard, who was killed in cold blood, plus 2 other agents, that they were killed and we just walked away? I asked for a list of everybody who has died on APC's account. These are APC members that have been killed since 2015 till today. Ruben, you will be shocked. I've now asked for a complete list. There are over 50. And I want to send that list to you so that you can take a look at the names of people who have died. I think justice demands that we follow this to the end. Where do we stand with this? Is the judiciary in Nigeria able to stand and say that where injustice was done, they are going to correct it? It's possible. Everybody keeps telling me that the judiciary is so corrupt that we are not going to get justice. I choose to defer. I have met people within the judiciary who have stood and said that we are not going to collect a bribe and we are going to do what is right. There may be an exception, but as long as that exception exists, we have hope. And I believe 100% that we are going to see somebody who is going to stand at this tribunal and say that what was done in Rivers State is an injustice, and Tonye and APC deserve to be the ones who won that election and should be sworn in as governor of Rivers State. I'm holding on to that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cole. I want to ask you categorically, is your party leadership, the APC party leadership, in support of your seeking redress in court? Have you received support from the APC leadership as to your stance about your
Absolutely.
review of the elections in Rivers State? I ask you again because
Absolutely.
an interest group of the APC, the upper echelon, I'm sure you must have heard about this one, have talked about the fact that they are satisfied with the way elections were conducted in Rivers State. They came out to say that it is mischief makers in the APC, even pointing fingers at one of the APC chieftains in Rivers State, Honorable Rotimi Amechi, that he's aggrieved and he's using, just trying to disrupt things in Rivers State, and even recommended for his replacement. So it begs the question that, is the APC in support of this, or are there pressures for you to work with Governor Nyesom Wike in Rivers State?
Okay, so again, thank you for the question. First, I will dispute the source of that report being a top APC national office holder. It has not come from anybody in the national office. But having said that, I started by saying, yes, absolutely, APC National is in support of what we're doing because we are a party, and that party that recognizes us as the bona fide APC candidate and executives in Rivers State. So no problem with that whatsoever. On Rotimi Amici, the one thing, the minute you mentioned him in this conversation, I understood where that was coming from. Rotimi Amici has chosen very, very, very carefully to stay away from the politics of Rivers State, politics of APC, both at the national and at the state level, allowing a new generation of politicians to get up and do what they believe is right for APC. Every time his name is dragged in, I know immediately that these are people looking for an excuse to stop us from moving forward. Rotimi Amici has stepped aside and allowed us to do what we have to do. And for that, the national and everybody who understands what is going on has been very supportive, and we continue to fight this fight.
Couple of things. Number one, since you couldn't get the CTC, then how do you file your case and make your case successfully? And what are you going to do next? Since INEC has not given this to you, are you not going to press charges against INEC themselves? How are you going to go about it? And secondly, I asked a question that what's the state of relationship between you and the president-elect? And it was for a reason. Because prior to this time, a lot of people even complained about the body language while you were campaigning and the president-elect came to Rivers State. They said, and this might be their words, that there was no that synergy because the deal had been done prior to that time and you were the one going to be put in the middle of that deal. In fact, I do not have the substantive fact on this. I repeat, I do not have the substantive fact on this, but they said you didn't even raise your hand up in the normal political style that is being done. Would you see this as a reason to now cooperate with the hitherto renegade PDP group against Wike in Rivers State to fight your battle? Because in this fight against Wike, there's some allies you've got. You've got Senator Lee Meba and a couple of other people in the PDP that are against Wike. Are you looking for that collaboration as it is?
Okay. So good questions again, Rufai. So to the initial question regarding the relationship with myself and the president-elect, I will repeat that that relationship is good. Not only is it good, it's beyond cordial. I don't have a problem with that. With the deal that Wike and the president-elect did, that's an open secret. That deal was essentially that the presidency should be delivered to APC, and APC, the president-elect, should allow Wike to do whatever he's going to do to get the governorship, his governorship candidate through. Now, assume that that deal went through. The main aspect of it was that the politics in Rivers State was not going to allow that deal to work as easily as Governor Wike assumed. And so what he had to do was deploy intimidation, violence, bribery, threats, killing, and all sorts of things to ensure that the election was stolen. Having done that, my president-elect cannot stand by and endorse all of those things and just say that this is allowed to go. He will not be able to do that because the facts on the ground are that these things were the only way that PDP could win the election in the state, by deploying undemocratic means to win. And that's what we are standing on. For us, we are not interested in what kind of politics is about deal making. So we're not interested in whether a deal was made or not made. What we're interested in is that having done that deal, what happened on the election day and can we get it through? Regarding collaboration with aggrieved members of PDP who are fighting with Wike, we are collaborating with everybody who is in Rivers State that wants the truth. Those who are in SDP, those who are in PDP, those who are in APC, everybody who knows that Rivers State needs to be removed from this mess that we find ourselves and put on the right track. Okay. We will find them, they will stand as witnesses, and we'll work together.
Okay, Mr. Toriko, I just want to quickly, tiny bit, confirm something. So are you saying that the victory that was delivered for your president-elect in Rivers State was delivered by suppression of votes, maligning people, hurting people, suppressing them? Is that what you're saying?
No.
And that should not stand?
No. Remember, Rufai, that when the first election, the presidential election happened, nobody was expecting any kind of trouble because we were all relying on the beavers to work. So everybody went through an election. The morning of that election was peaceful, there was no problem. And then the beavers did not work, and some people took advantage of that to begin to mutilate results and all of that. Presidential election is a totally different thing. The 2 weeks or 3 weeks that happened after that went through is where we began to see intimidation, violence, and killing. Nobody died at the presidential election, but when it came to the gubernatorial election, all hell broke loose because they now saw that there was an opportunity to bypass beavers, to do all sorts of things. So my grouse is not with the first aspect of it. My grouse is with what happened during the presidential election, where canes were used to flog people, where threats, open threats were made, where people were told that if they did not come out to vote for PDP, they should not come out. That is where the grouse is, and that's where people died, and that is exactly what we are fighting against.
Well, nothing is cast in stone in politics. Anything can change. You wanted to be governor of Rivers State to serve your people. Now you have a president-elect of your party that seems to have cut a deal in your own state. Now, what if it happens tomorrow? Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, who is known to be a master strategist, decides to say, okay, Tonye, forget this petition, this tribunal matter, come and take a position in my government, and he offers you maybe a ministerial appointment. Would that settle the matter?
Like you rightly said, I don't know if that will settle the matter because such a position has not been brought before me. We have not been able to consider any such position. So I don't know if that position is on the table. What I do know today is that people died. What I know is that a mandate was stolen. What I am certain about is that we have enough evidence to overturn the results in court. What I am sure about is that if the tribunal does what it's meant to do, and we have judges who are of impeccable character standing there, I will be the governor of Rivers State. That much I'm certain about. Now, if somebody is offering me something that is different from this, it has to be fairly compelling. And I have not seen it, so I don't know what is on offer, but it must be really compelling to assuage the lives of those who died, to assuage those who were maimed, to assuage those who felt that their mandate was totally stolen, their voices stolen. Now, it has to assuage that. I have not seen any deal on the table on our part that says that there's something that is worth taking that away. So, till we see the deal.
All right. Mr. Cole, I'm glad to hear that. I'm sure a number of people would be glad to hear that there is a window for a deal to be made. And I believe that, your party members are watching. What kind of deal? You say the deal that would assuage the pains of the people, make atonement perhaps for the deaths of those who lost their lives in the course of this exercise. What kind of deal would be deal enough to sway you?
Like I said, I have not seen any deal, but the first aspect of it, and this I'm really concerned about, everybody who has died between 2015 till today, nobody has addressed them at all. They need to be addressed. We need to bring all of them out, bring their widows, bring their widowers, bring their children, and assuage them. They cannot have fought for APC. These are people who stood against all odds, fought for APC at the risk of their lives, ensured that APC won the election in 2015, won in 2019 with blood. They lost lives, and people just ignore it, threw it under the carpet. So my first work is to ensure that everybody who has lost their life must be assuaged. That's where we start. The next aspect of it is that we must ensure that all the kind of poverty and suffering we see in Rivers State is beyond belief. we see a lot of, it's beyond belief. So the next aspect of it is, what do the Rivers people get from this deal? Right now, they are getting the raw end of the stick. The people of Rivers State are getting the raw end of the stick. And so any deal that does not take them in consideration is not a deal I'm interested in. They must be taken into full consideration. And so we must hear that. After all of that, we can now start talking about the issues of politicians and all. But people of Rivers State and those who lost their lives, we must address them.
Okay. Mr. Serika, I want to go back to the presidential elections in Rivers State. So recently, the Premium Times released a report saying that what was on the IRF was different from what was announced by INEC that showed APC win the presidential election. Especially, they talked about Obi Akpo. And a lot of presidential election shenanigans that happened at the presidential elections in Rivers State. Do you say that everything was good as regards that nothing happened, even despite the stark revelations that is now coming out as regards Obi Akpo and all the shenanigans and the violence that happened on presidential election day in Rivers State? Are you saying you endorse it?
No, Rufai, I never said that. I said to you, as far as the presidential election was concerned, that morning of that presidential election was peaceful because nobody was expecting what was coming. So everything was going according to plan. Round about 12 o'clock, round about between 1 and 2, when it began to seem impossible for the results to be uploaded, remember that we were voting. We went out and we voted for APC. And I've always said this, APC was going to win that election, both at the presidential level and at the gubernatorial level. Personally, I've always felt that that deal was unnecessary because APC, I have gone every local government word to word, and I knew what APC had in Rivers State. APC would have won that election without any of these shenanigans. But Rivers State, Wike needed to show or prove that he was the one that delivered that. And he wasn't. He wasn't. Now, for him to be able to do that, as soon as the Beavers report started misbehaving, they went and began to snatch ballot boxes and rewrite results. And that's what you saw. And so you saw a lot of IREV mutilated result sheets, which were unnecessary. But that's what you saw. Now, would APC have won that election? Yes, APC would have won. I've never shied from that. I've always said it, both on air and personally, we would have won.
So, Mr. Cole, you have confirmed to me now this morning that in the presidential election, actually, people snatched ballot boxes, they rewrote results. That's why you saw the mutilation in the presidential election that APC was finally declared. The next question I'd like to ask you, you said you're very close and cordial to Bola Tinubu. When you heard about the deal being made with Wike, did you pick up the phone and call Bola Tinubu and said, this is my position on this deal. I feel not happy about being put in the middle as a bait in this deal. Did you ever do that?
I went beyond that.
Okay.
We met one-on-one and we spoke about it. I said to you, he's somebody who has given me a lot of political advice. And we sat down and we spoke. And I said, and we agreed, when it comes to politics and all, it might be understandable from a political aspect why this kind of deal is being done. However, on a personal basis, between you and I, it's not something that I agree with, because I can assure you, you do not need this deal to win Rivers State. But he's much older than me. He's my father's age mate. He's somebody who has a lot of understanding of politics. And there might be things, in fact, there are things that he sees that I would not see. And so that's okay. Now, there are things that he has seen that enabled him to justify that he needed to go into a deal. But personally, I said to him, I am on the ground. We have gone stage by stage. You don't need this deal to win. But it's what it is. We've moved past that now.
Let me ask you, there's been some issue arising from the elections, which is about the determination of election suits. And some people have said, look, what is best for us in Nigeria is for election petitions to be determined before the inauguration of a new government. What do you think about that? Because you are also caught in that conundrum. May 29, whether we like it or not, all the persons who have been given certificates of return will be sworn in. They will appoint commissioners. They will appoint ministers. They will set up government. They will keep running. But the people who are petitioning will be pursuing petitions. What's your view on that?
So I agree with that. One of the things that INEC did, and did correctly, was that they ensured that every kind of relationship, litigation, dispute of the primaries would be sorted out before you go for the election. And I think that that's a good thing. So you know that everybody who came out and contested as a candidate does not have anything legal hanging over them. That was great. So I agree with that. That ought to be done also for the for those who have won or lost elections. So we need to be able to go very clean into an election, such that once you have won that election, you know you've won and you have been sworn in, you know you have been sworn in, and nothing is holding you back. So Ruben, I 100% agree that we need to look at the issues of litigation, election tribunal, such that you can close everything before you are sworn in. If we can do that, it's preferable.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cole. I'd like to take you back to the inauguration of the 12th flyover in River State yesterday, which the president-elect was invited by the governor, Wike. One of the things were discussed around, the I owe you nothing statements made by the president-elect was the fact that sometimes, in some instances, we've seen that construction or repair of federal infrastructure like roads could sometimes be a scam, whereby governors would repair and then bill the federal government way above how much it costs them to do it. In this light, I'd like you to evaluate the costs if you're aware of it, but the construction of Governor Wike in the last few months or last year of his administration. Do you think money has been judiciously spent? Have you had access to how much money was spent and how much money is being requested?
Unfortunately, I don't have access to how much money has been spent in terms of the bridges and the actual cost. And that's one of the opaque issues that we see within River State. But within the context of what is spent and what is recoverable, I can tell you that during the administration before before Nyesom Wike, that's Rotimi Amichi's administration, had done similar things. A lot of expenses on roads that are federal roads and all. And when this government, Buhari's government, came in, the application to refund for most of those projects was made. And I know that this government paid the River State government for those things. So I'm sure that that's the basis and precedence with which Governor Nyesom Wike is requesting for the repayment. Now, an audit will be done, it will be checked, it will be verified. The president-elect says he owes nothing, and that is his prerogative. Buhari accepted that he owed and went and made those payments. And as President Buhari made the payments to River State and all of that, that's one of the windfalls that River State used for the projects that they're carrying out as well. So there's precedence for it, but it's also the prerogative of the president-elect whether he wants to do it or not.
I'd like to ask you this as we wrap up. With all of this that has happened to you and all the struggles and the travails, when last have you even spoken to Governor Wike himself?
I'm not sure I've spoken to Governor Wike in a couple of years. Probably the last time we spoke must have been about 4 years ago.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Tonye Cole, this morning, and thank you so much for talking to us.